Our guest today is Jay Martin, President and CEO of Cambridge House International. Happy New Year, Jay. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Daniela.
And I will be seeing you in person. You are hosting the upcoming VRIC, Vancouver Resource Investment Conference, happening January 20th to the 21st. I will be there. I look forward to being there. And my question to you now was, what do you think sentiment will be like this year? You know, as we know, mining stocks have taken a hit. But I remember last year at the show, you know, sold out, tremendous success. What can we expect this year?
Yeah, you know what? This year we're actually overpaced from last year for registered investors. And I don't want to act too surprised because the year hasn't been fantastic, but the last quarter's been pretty good. You know, if you look at Q4, the gold price, I think gold's up $100 since August. Agnico's up $7, VRIC's up. Just in the last 30 days, a lot of our silver producers have done quite well. And our attendance is reflecting that. It's amazing how quickly our registrations reflect the gold price and the gold market. So I think we'll see about 8,000 investors at the show this year. That's up about 1,000 over last year, and 360 exhibiting companies on the show floor.
Well, Jay, this is probably one of the conferences I look forward to the most because I really use it as my barometer for the year. I can usually gauge, you know, how the year will play out in the commodity space. But I need to ask you, because obviously you've been doing this for a really long time, is there anything you've noticed has changed, you know, over the past 5 years, you know, the type of investor that's coming, or, you know, anything that sticks out for you?
Yeah, a few things. So, you know, in the last 5 years, so I used to be one of the young guys that would attend our conferences. I'm 34 years old, and it's no longer the case. In the last 2 years specifically, we've seen a massive increase, well, significant, a noticeable increase in investors that are coming to our show, and they're in their mid-20s. They're very young, and younger than I've ever seen at an event like ours, which is really curious to me because I always thought it would be a bull market that would bring new investors to the industry.
Yeah.
But you know, it hasn't been a great market yet. We're seeing new faces. And what we're learning about this population of investors today is we need to be more focused on the story. You know, if you dial back to 2011, 2012, you know, good drill results were enough to get people excited. And we're finding right now we have to tell a bigger story about the end use case. What's the mineral going to be used for? What's the bigger picture story that's driving the demand? And then we get interest in the specific commodities.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point because, you know, when we were talking about millennials so interested in the cryptocurrencies, I was always thinking to myself, why don't they look to the mining space? You know, do you not agree with me there, Jay, that, you know, there has to be better education for the young people out there, get them knowing and educated about the fact that you can make money in this space?
100%, yeah. And you know what, it was that crypto market and it was the cannabis market, I think, that turned a lot of these investors onto the venture space, because we run shows in technology as well. We've got a tech conference in Toronto and one here in Vancouver, and we've been covering the crypto market, the blockchain rally last year, and the cannabis sector for a couple of years. And those were the first topics that we saw bring out a younger audience. And now this audience is just converted to venture investors, and we're seeing them now at our mining conference as well, and those numbers will go up as the market gets better, for sure.
All right, so let's talk about, you know, the all-stars you're bringing in this year. You have Rex Murphy on the roster. You have Timothy Sykes, Peter Schiff, Peter Hug, Frank Holmes. Tell us what we can expect.
Yeah, so Rex Murphy is a new speaker for us. We've never had him before. And, you know, that's interesting because he's an icon in Canada, right? He's been a resource ambassador for a decade plus. The reason I wanted to bring Rex in is because we hear from the same people frequently, and you and I have conversations with the same people like Frank Holmes, like Peter Hug, like Marion Katusa. What Rex brings is just a different perspective because he's been involved in the resource sector ages, but he doesn't come from the markets. And so he comes from a different place with a different point of view. His talk will therefore be more big picture. What's the direction of Canada's resource economy, specifically in this political climate, which he's been very outspoken about. And knowing Rex, he'll be as outspoken on our podium. He's known for running his mouth and saying what he thinks. And,
yep.
Not pulling any punches. So we're excited to have him.
Yep.
And Timothy Sykes, again, he's not a traditional Cambridge House resource investor speaker. but he's a really intelligent trader, and he brings a different perspective himself, right? He doesn't come from the mining space. He comes from the markets. He trades different than most of us, value investors play in the market. And if you know Timothy Sykes from his online presence, he's not all Caribbean beaches and Lamborghinis. He's actually a very intelligent trader as well. He knows how to market himself very efficiently. He's completely hilarious.
Turned, right, Jay? Didn't he turn $12,000 of his bar mitzvah money into millions, right? Isn't that his claim to fame?
And he does that every year. So his strategy is pretty unique. He did start with 12 grand. He turned that into, in his first year, was like 200,000 and something. But every year he actually dials his account back to 12 grand so that his trading students, so he can be aligned with his trading students. And then he runs that account for the year, cashes out his winnings, and drops back to $12,000. Right. Really interesting trader, very comical keynote speaker. He'll be debating Marion Katusa, and they'll be talking about value investing versus trading as a philosophy. Two young guys, hyper successful, and really interesting to hear from. So I'm looking forward to that.
Can't wait to catch that. And then we have the Ultimate Gold Panel, moderated by yours truly, featuring Frank Holmes, Peter Schiff, Peter Hugg, and perhaps one more special guest. I can't wait to moderate it, and we look forward to doing that.
Yeah, and you know what, Daniela, this year we're seeing more interest in the gold topics than we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years. The last year, the year prior, the biggest topics that were pulling in attendees and filling our speaker halls were almost exclusively focused on electricity metals, and energy storage. So lots of lithium, cobalt, vanadium, etc. This year, leading into January, we're getting far more interest in the gold topics. I think this panel specifically is going to be at capacity and our busiest feature at the show.
No pressure. Jay, thanks so much, and I look forward to seeing you in Vancouver.